My name is Elsa Putri Nurdiana, number 8.
My name is Nawah Anwar, number 28.
My name is Ramdhani Setiawan. I'm number 31.
My name is Theresia Purba, number 32.
Now I would like to explain my presentation based on Malhotra Chapter 7, Casual Research Design, Experimentation, Measurement, and Scaling, Fundamental and Comparative Scaling, and Opportunity. Concept of causality. There are two meanings inside concept of causality. The first one is ordinary meaning. First, X is the only cause of Y. X must always lead to Y, or X is deterministic cause of Y. It is possible to prove that X is cause of Y. The second is scientific meaning. X is only one of a number of possible causes of Y. The occurrence of X makes the occurrence of Y more probable, or X is probabilistic cause of Y. We can never prove that X is a cause of Y. At best, we can infer that X is a cause of Y. Condition for causality. There are three items that in condition for causality. The first one is concomitant variation. The second is time order of occurrence of variables. The third is elimination of other possible factor. Concomitant variation. A condition for inferring causality that requires that a cause X and an effect Y occur together or vary together as predicted by the hypothesis under consideration. For example, in the qualitative case, the management of a department store believed that sales are highly dependent upon the quality of in-store service. This hypothesis could be examined by assessing concomitant variation. Here, the causal factor X is in-store service, and the effect factor Y is sales. Time order of occurrence of variable. The time order of occurrence condition states that the causing event must occur either before or simultaneously with the effect. It cannot occur afterward. Absence of other possible causal factor. The absence of other possible causal factor means that the factor of variable being investigated should be the only possible causal explanation. Role of evidence. Accumulated evidence from several investigations increases our confidence that a causal relationship exists. Confidence is further enhanced if the evidence is interpreted in light of intimate conceptual knowledge of the problem situation. Controlled experiment can provide strong evidence on all three conditions. Definition and concept. First, independent variable. Independent variable are variable alternatives that are manipulated and whose effects are measured and compared. This variable, also known as a treatment, may include price level, package design, and advertising terms. Test units. Test units are individual, organization, or other entity whose response to the independent variable or treatment is being examined. Test unit may include consumer store or geographic area. Dependent variable. Dependent variable are the variable that measure the effect of independent variable on the test unit. This variable may include sales, profits, and market shares. Extraneous variable. Extraneous variable are all variables other than independent variable that affect the response of the test unit. Next is experimental design. An experimental design is a set of procedures specifying first the test units and how these units are to be divided into homogeneous subsample. Second, what independent variable or treatment are to be manipulated. The third, what dependent variable are to be measured. And four, how the extraneous variable are to be controlled. Definition of symbol. To facilitate our discussion of extraneous variable and specific experimental design, we define a set of symbols that are commonly used in the marketing research. There are X, O, and R. Validity in experimentation. Internal validity refers to whether the manipulation of the independent variable or treatment actually cause the observed effect on the dependent variable. External validity refers to whether the cause and effect relationship found in the experiment can be generalized. Extraneous variable. In this section, we classify extraneous variable in the following category. There are history, maturation, testing, instrumentation, statistical regression, selection bias, and mortality. Controlling extraneous variable. Extraneous variable represent alternative explanation or experimental result. They pose a serious threat to the internal and external validity of an experiment. Unless they are controlled for, they affect the dependent variable and thus confound the result. For this reason, they are also called confounding variables. There are 4 ways of controlling random variables. The first is randomization, matching, statistical control, and design control. A classification of experimental design. In the screen you can see a graphic that shows about this topic. True experimental design. In true experimental design, the researchers randomly assign test unit to experimental group and treatment to experimental group. True experimental design include the pre-test, post-test control group design, the post-test only control group design, the Solomon 4 group design. Quasi-experimental design. Quasi-experimental design are useful because they can be used in cases when true experimental cannot. Statistical design. Statistical design consists of a series of basic experiments that allow for statistical control and analysis of external variables. In other words, several basic experiments are conducted simultaneously. Latin square design. Latin square designs allow the researchers to statistically control two non-interacting external variables as well as to manipulate the independent variable. Laboratory versus field experiment. The term field environment is synonymous with actual marketing condition. Laboratory experiments have some advantages over field experiment. The first is the laboratory environment offers a high degree of control because it isolates the experiment in a carefully monitored environment. Second, the effect of history can be minimized. The third, laboratory experiments also tend to produce the same result if repeated with similar subjects, leading to high internal validity. Fourth, laboratory experiments tend to use a small number of test units, last for a shorter time, be more restricted geographically, and be easier to conduct than field experiments. Hence, they are generally less expensive as well. In the screen, you can see the table about the difference between laboratory experiment and field experiment. Application test marketing. Test marketing, also called market testing, is an application of a controlled experiment done in limited but carefully selected part of the marketplace called test market. It involves a replication of planned national marketing program in the test market. International marketing research in field experiments are difficult to conduct in US. The challenge they pose is greatly increased in the international arena. In many countries, the marketing, economic, structural, information, and technological environment is not developed to the extent that it is in the US. Ethics in marketing research. It is often necessary to distinguish the purpose of the experiment in order to produce valid results. Distinguishing the purpose of the research should be done in a manner that doesn't violate the right of the respondent. One way to handle this ethical dilemma is to inform the respondent at the beginning that the experiment has been distinguished. They should else be given a description of the research task and told that they can leave the experiment at any time after the data have been collected. The true purpose of the study and the nature of the discourse should be fully explained to respondents, and they should be given an opportunity to withdraw their information. The procedure is called debriefing.
Definition: measurement is assigning number or other symbols to characteristics of objects according to certain pre-specified rules. Scaling is the generation of a continuum upon which measured objects are located, and it can also considered as an extension of measurement. Scale characteristic and level of measurement. Firstly, description is the unique labels or descriptors that are used to designate each value of the scale. Secondly, order is the relative size of or position of the descriptor. Orders denoted by descriptors such as greater than, less than, and equal to. Thirdly, distance means that absolute differences between the scale descriptors are known and may be expressed in units. And last, origin means that the scale has a unique or fixed beginning or true 0 point. Primary scale of measurement. First scale is nominal. Second scale is ordinal. Third scale is interval, and last is ratio. There are two scaling techniques. Firstly, comparative scale. Secondly, non-comparative scale. Comparative scale divided into paired comparison, rank order, constant sum, Q-sort, and other procedure. Non-comparative scale divided into continuous rating scale, itemized rating scale. Itemized rating scale divided into Likers, semantic differential, Stoffel.
As a comparison of scaling technique. A comparison of scaling technique. The scaling technique, commonly employed in marketing research, can be classified to comparative and non-comparative scales. Comparative scales involve the direct comparison of stimulus object. For this reason, comparative scales is also referred to as non-metric scales. So, comparative scales are one of two types of scaling technique in which there is direct comparison of stimulus object with the another. In non-comparative scales, also referred as the non-metric or metric scales, where each object is scaled independently of the other in the stimulus set. The resulting data are generally assigned to interval or radio select. Next, a comparative scaling technique. A comparative scaling technique is which a respondent is presented with two objects at the time and asked to select one object in the pair according to some criterion. The data obtained are ordinary in nature. Paired comparison data can be analyzed in several ways. The researcher can calculate the percentage of respondents who prefer one stimulus and another by summing the metric. Next, paired comparison scaling, the most common method in testing is the paired comparison. The consumer is asked to sample different products and to select the one with the most appealing taste. The test is done in private, either in homes or other predetermined site. A minimum of 1,000 respondents is considered an adequate sample. And next, rank order scaling. After paired comparison The most popular comparative scaling technique is rank order scaling. In rank order scaling, respondents are presented with several objects together and asked to order the rank them according to some criterion. The conclusion is a comparative scaling technique in which respondents are presented with several objects together and asked to order or rank according to some criterions. Next, this is a word-based now brands to be a strong competitor in today's American marketplace. Companies really heavily on brand recognition. When consumers recognize a company or a product as a household name, preferably for good reason rather than as the result of bad publicity, brand equity is increased. Next, keyword and other procedures. Keyword scaling was developed to discriminate quickly among the relatively large number of objects. This technique uses a rank order procedures in which objects are sorted into piles based on similarity with respect to some criterions. Next, international marketing research. The increase in measurement level in the obtained at the cost of complexity. From the viewpoint of the respondent, nominal scales are the simplest to use, whereas the ratio scales are the most complex. Respondents in many development countries, due to higher education and consumer sophistication levels, are quite used to providing response on interval and ratio scales. However, it has been argued that information may not be well crystallized in some developing countries. Next, technique in marketing research. The researcher has the responsibility to use the appropriate types of scaling to get the data needed to answer the research question and test the hypothesis. Take, for example, a newspaper such as the Wall Street Journal, wanting information to the personality profiles of its readers and non-readers. Next, SPSS Windows. SPSS Windows. Using SPSS data entry, the researcher can design any the primary types of scales: normal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Either the equation library can be used. The customized scale can be designed moreover, parent compression, rank order, and constant sum scales can be easy implemented to SPSS Windows.
Opportunity. Experiment and event. Experiment relate to things planned to be done. The result of an experiment are called event. For example, when we toss a coin and observe its side, the act of throwing is an event, but the appearance of the coin side is the result. Next, baseline event and sample space. The simplest event, which is the result of an experiment, is called the basic event. A collection of all the basic events called the sample space, while the number of basic events that may be called the site of the sample space. Calculation of sample space. Number 1. Multiplication method. The multiplication method is done when one event produces one opportunity. Number 2. Permutation. Permutation is done when the location of the arrangements of objects will distinguish the meaning of the arrangement. Number 3. Combination. Combination is done when the sample and the result are taken from the object without regret to their arrangement. Next, the nature of opportunity. Number 1. When opportunity A appears 0, it means the event A is less likely to occur. But when opportunity A appears 1, then the possibility is even more certain. Number 2. Probability of the complement of one event is 1 minus the event. Number 3. Opportunity event A and B is obtained from incremental event A and B. Then less chance of occurs of event A and B. Next, opportunity for various event. Number 1. Mutually exclusive event occurs when two events that can possibly occurs together. Number 2. Independent event occurs when two events are not interdependent and there is possibility that they occurs together. Number 3. Dependent event occurs when an event is affected by another event. Next, opportunity distribution. Number 1. Binomial opportunity distribution. Binomial opportunity are used as model for the event of Bernoulli process, although not all the binomial characteristics are met. Number 2. Poisson opportunity distribution. Poisson opportunity are used to approach binomial distribution. Number 3 is normal opportunity distribution. Normal opportunity are part of the continuous opportunity distribution